Hello, everybody. The EU is putting a limit on how much cash you can spend if you are a private citizen. And it's now made a ruling or introduced a law that says you cannot pay for anything in cash if it's over 10,000 euros. That's the maximum amount that you can pay in cash, which is, for a normal person like me, not a problem. It might be if I decide at one point I want to buy a car in cash or something, or if you want to buy a house in cash. As up to now, there's not been any limit on how much you can pay for in cash. So if you want to turn up with a briefcase full of cash, if you've got that, and buy anything you want, whether it's a car or a house or a Rolex watch, you've been able to do that. But from January 2027, which is just over a year away from when I'm making this video, it's now November 2025, in the EU, which has 27 member countries, you will no longer be able to use cash to make purchases over 10,000 euros. And they say that if you want to make any such purchases, you will have to use other means. You will have to, by law, use some kind of digital transaction in order to purchase anything over that amount of money. And, you know, with inflation, you can actually, a family holiday might now cost more than 10,000 euros. I mean, I say that laughing. It's no laughing matter, but because inflation has just increased and increased and increased, the price of everything has gone up. What used to cost 2, 3, 4,000 euros 10, 15, 20 years ago now costs 10,000 euros or more in the Eurozone. So I'm in the UK, obviously, and most of you watching are in the UK. You're based some there. Some of you are in America, some of you in the EU, some of you in Canada, Australia, and other places. So there's no actual law in the UK or the USA or Australia yet to say that you are not allowed to make purchases over £10,000 or $10,000 in cash. But you can imagine that somebody somewhere in some party will try to roll that out at some point in the future, because it seems that the government and the powers that be and the globalist organizations like the World Economic Forum want to get rid of cash. They want a cashless society. So this rule or law in the EU is a drastically totalitarian attack on our freedom, because the ability to use cash is freedom. You can do what you want with cash without anyone knowing about it. But of course, this is all being done under the auspices of anti-money laundering rules. They need to stop money laundering, they say. So they're going to put a limit on how much cash you can use on cash purchases. But the joke is, it's not really a joke, it's actually an appalling situation. The biggest money launderers are in the governments themselves. Look at how many billions of euros and pounds and dollars different governments are laundering through Ukraine, or they're laundering through solar panel and wind turbine schemes, which hardly produce any energy, but certainly get a lot of money from A to B to C without it actually getting someone put in prison that should be in prison for actually defrauding the taxpayers. So this is a dreadful, another imposition, another attack on freedom. What we have in the UK, of course, is not an absolute limit from the government on how much money you can use to purchase something in cash. But we have seen various banks impose limits on how much cash you can take out of your own bank account. So there have been lots of videos where people have gone into their bank and they've asked to take out a few £1,000s, and the bank has said no, unless you can prove what it's for, give some kind of invoice before you're allowed to take your own money out of the bank. That's what's happening in the UK. That's also what I see is happening in Australia as well. And the thing is with the UK is your money in the bank is not actually yours anymore because of various banking acts. It's a deposit which you can get out under some circumstances if the banks are still solvent, but your money, if it's in a bank account, you don't own it. You are a creditor of the bank. You are a depositor. So the money is technically not yours. Of course, they will give it to you, in small amounts to pretend that the system all works and the money is still there, but it's not actually there because they lend it out under fractional reserve banking, which is all very complicated and quite fraudulent. But that's a whole other issue. So there is a continuing war on cash going on, and this is just one other manifestation of it. So be aware of what is going on and vote for the Heritage Party in the UK because we support cash, and we will implement a rule to say that all retailers must take cash if it's offered to them as a form of payment with no limits on how much you can use. Thanks for listening, everyone. God bless you all.